What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Too Pop to Handle. I'm your host, Andrew Nucatola, your pop culture best friend, and as always, I hope you guys are having a fabulous week. If your week has been anything like mine, I'm sure you have been spending a lot of time holding space for the lyrics of Defying Gravity. It has been a very big week for us theater kids, so, I get it. We are all experiencing the wonderfulness that is the Wicked movie together. And you know what? We get to do it again next year, which is so exciting. For a while, I was kind of like bummed out that we had to wait a whole year to get the second part of the movie. But now that I've seen part one and I'm still like reeling from it, we have the soundtrack. We can, obviously it'll be soon. I'm like, you know what? I need the year to dare I say, hold space with the Wicked movie and, really digest it and then get ready for part two. So very big week for us theater kids, really for everybody. I feel like everybody is suddenly obsessed with Wicked, which I love to see. And on the topic of Wicked, before we go any further on this week's episode, I just want to say thank you guys so much for the love and the support on last week's episode. It was my Wicked movie review, and I got so much great feedback, so much love. It's one of my most streamed episodes. It was charting in places like I didn't even realize that I had reached like that. It was like South Africa I was charting in, Australia, Denmark, the UK, Canada. I was charting in the US. I had so many, it was so cool to see that I was charting in places that I didn't even realize I had that many listeners. So thank you guys so much for your love on that episode. That being said, if you missed it, this week on my Substack, I posted a very fun post. I was teasing a little bit last week and the week before, and it was pretty much me just going through all of the looks from their Wicked premieres from Ariana and Cynthia and tying back all of the Oz references that they made through their look. So it was really fun to put that together. I put a lot of time and effort into it. So if you're interested in that, I will have my Substack linked down below. You can go check that out. I actually have a lot of really fun posts going up on Substack this week. I decided to take a breather from popping in my newsletter and just kind of focus on some more long form content there. So on Monday, like I said, I did the Ariana and Cynthia Oz references post. Today, if you're listening to this on Wednesday, the day this comes out, I did a ranking of all of the Friends Thanksgiving episodes because I feel like a Friends Thanksgiving episode is such a staple in pop culture, and I'm such a big Friends fan that it felt right to give my ranking. So that was a lot of fun. It was like I was doing my research, if you want to call it that, just watching these Friends episodes, and I was like, this is so much fun. I love doing this. So that is live on my Substack now. And then this Friday, so on Black Friday, the 29th, I believe the date is, I'm going to, this is a podcast exclusive. There's going to be a pop culture gift guide, pretty much anything you need to buy for, whether it's somebody who had a brat summer, somebody who was listening to Chappell Roan before she blew up, think of the pop culture person in your life who you want to buy a gift for. I went through and I picked out some really fun gifts. I have some things for Taylor Swift fans, Charlie XCX fans, Chappell Roan, Sabrina. There's a mix of different pop girlies and also just some miscellaneous pop culture things. So it is broken down by fandom, but I also have some things that could really be spread across multi-fandom. So that'll be out on Friday, so the 29th. So make sure you're subscribed to check that out. I'll have it all linked down below. And I think that is all of my housekeeping things. Obviously, this week is Thanksgiving. So if you're listening to this on release day, it is Blackout Wednesday. And I did this last year and I had a lot of people say, you know what? Thank you for your rules. I needed that. So I thought I would just, give a gentle reminder. We've gotten some new listeners in the last year or so. In case anybody is going out for Blackout Wednesday this year, I personally don't participate in Blackout Wednesday Thanksgiving Eve anymore. My time is done. I'm well out of college. I'm good to go. I do not need to go back to my hometown bars on Blackout Wednesday. But that being said, it was my favorite day of the year. I looked forward to it so much. And I'm sure many of you listening have the same experience or will be experiencing it soon. So if you are going out this Blackout Wednesday, I just wanted to set some ground rules to really just make sure you are not going to end up regretting your Thanksgiving. So let me just take it from the top. It's only 3. So it's not too many to follow, but they are crucial to make sure that you don't have a terrible Thanksgiving and ruin the rest of your weekend. First things first, do not text your ex. I don't care if you see them at the bar. I don't care if they text you first. I don't care if they Snapchat you. I don't care if they send a carrier pigeon. Do not respond. It is going to ruin your weekend. It is going to throw your whole vibe off for the weekend. You are home for 96 hours, if that. You're home for 4 days for Thanksgiving. Do not let that piece of shit ruin it. He is your ex, or she, or they, whoever, however they identify. They are your ex for a reason. Keep it that way. And now, If you don't listen to my first rule, I'm back with rule number 2 to just remind you again, do not go home with your ex. Let's say you skip rule number 1. You're like, you know what? Andrew doesn't know what he's talking about. Why am I going to listen to this little, this man with a podcast? Fine. Don't listen to rule number 1. Text your ex. You'll regret it in the morning. That's fine. But rule number 2, do not wake up at your ex's house on Thanksgiving morning. Capiche? All right? Do not do it. And rule number 3, do not separate from your friend group. If you are going out with a group of friends or you're meeting a group of friends out at the bar, do not separate from them. Do the buddy system. If you're going to the bathroom, leave with a friend. As soon as you leave your friend group, and this is from experience, as soon as you separate from your friend group, one of two things is going to happen. Number 1, you're never going to find them again. The bar is going to become just like swallowed by the worst people you have ever met in your life, and you're never going to find your friend group again. Or number 2, you're going to run into somebody that you did not want to run into. And if you have a friend with you, you can kind of use each other to kind of volley yourself out of the situation. If you're by yourself, you're a lone soldier. You are essentially fucked, and you might get stuck in a conversation for 30, 40, maybe an hour. You might miss a Beyonce song on the dance floor because Sarah, who you haven't seen in a year and a half, who you probably don't even follow on Instagram anymore, because she wanted to stop and talk to you for an hour about what's going on at school. Nope. Bring a friend. Do not separate from the group. It's simple. I'm not asking you to do anything crazy, and I'm really doing this with your best interest at heart. I've been through my fair share of Blackout Wednesday, Thanksgiving Eves. Like, I have been through it. I've fallen victim to all 3 of these. So I'm just going to leave it at that. But take my advice, have fun. It is such a fun night to go out on Blackout Wednesday. Part of me does miss it. Like, sometimes the old brain cells do come through and they're like, oh, you want to go black out at your hometown bar so bad. And it is fun. I'm not going to sit here and lie and be like, I used to have miserable times on Thanksgiving Eve, because I always had a blast, but it is, it comes with some baggage. So if you are going out this Blackout Wednesday, be safe, have fun, follow my rules, and you'll have a fabulous Thanksgiving weekend. That's, what more could you ask for? But enough about my rules, enough about, this old dog teaching you guys new tricks, whatever you want to call it. Let's get into the show, and we're going to kick things off with our Drew releases, so our new music releases from last week, and there's nothing coming out this week that I can think of, so nothing to look forward to, unfortunately, but we had a lot coming out last week. I had a surprise drop, so there was a lot. We've been so fed this year that I feel like any Friday we get without a release, it's like, you know what, good, let's take a beat, let's take a breather, and let's just, keep on trucking along. But first things first, we had Lil Nas X. He released his second single from this new era. It's called Need That Boy. I'm liking it. Again, I was saying this last week with the single from the first single, that he released from this era. They're good, but he has such he likes a cohesive project. I feel like even his first album, Montero, was such a start to finish story, and the tour told a story, and he's so big on well-rounded projects that it's really hard to judge him off of just one-off singles. If you were to judge him off of Old Town Road and not listen to his album, you're missing out, because his album is incredible. Old Town Road, it is annoying, but it is what it is. That is nowhere near how good his album was. So these singles, they are good. I am liking them. I'm not going and saying they're not on repeat. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you guys. I listened to them maybe 2 or 3 times each, and I was like, all right, I'll wait for the album. But they are good. I am very excited to see what he has in store for this new album. So that is our first release. Our second release that we're going to talk about is a release that I typically wouldn't discuss, but you'll understand why in just a moment. But Kendrick Lamar released his new album, GNX, and it was a surprise drop, which I feel like surprise drops, there was a oversaturation of them for a while. I feel like once Beyonce did it, everybody started doing surprise drops. Ariana Grande did one, Taylor Swift did one. People are just doing surprise drops left and right. So they kind of lost their spark, but we haven't had one in a while that I can think of someone's going to clip an old episode and be like, well, remember 2 weeks ago when this happened? But that being said, nothing comes to my mind of crazy surprise drops. Right? Yeah, I can't really think of anything major, but Kendrick Lamar dropping an album out of nowhere is a big deal. I don't listen to Kendrick that often. I appreciate him for, what he is, but he's just not my thing, You guys know I like the pop girls. I like the female rappers, but That being said, this album is not only produced by Jack Antonoff, who obviously I love his production. I was like, all right, let me tune in. But SZA is featured on 2 of the tracks. She is featured on Luther and Gloria. And one thing about me, I love SZA featuring Kendrick Lamar or vice versa. Just the 2 of them on a track together is like butter. Their voices sound so good together. They always give us like insane projects. So when Thomas, my boyfriend, told me that SZA was on these 2 tracks, I was like, all right, I'm listening to it. And I was honestly pleasantly surprised with the album. I actually really liked it. It's a good like gym vibe. I felt like I was listening to it at the gym over the weekend and I was like, wait, this is good. I like it. Am I going to keep it in my rotation? Probably not, but Kendrick has had such a big year and like, I mean, Not Like Us, the whole thing with Drake, like he has such a major year that there's really been all eyes on him and he just got nominated for Song of the Year with Not Like Us. Like he's performing at the Super Bowl in February. So he really is like there's a big spotlight on him right now. So for him to do this surprise drop, also to mention Not Like Us not being on the album is such a power move. He could have dropped the album with Not Like Us and gotten like all of those millions of streams included, but he was like, nope, that is a one-off diss track, fuck you to Drake. I'm leaving her be, and we are going to give you a full, I think it was 12 track, a full new 12 track album. And I respect that. I respect him not garnishing those streams from the single to kind of like amp this up because regardless whether he put that on there or not, he was going to do well. And I'm pretty sure he's projected to go #1. People are a little annoyed saying that he's blocking the Wicked album. I mean, it's not like Ariana Grande released an album herself. It's like it's a soundtrack album. I don't know why Ariana Grande fans they're getting very mad about this drop. I can't think of any of the beef between Ariana and Kendrick or like why he would do it to block Ariana. I think people have that like the stan brain cell where they just like instantly think everybody's after their favorite artist when it's like, take a chill pill, relax, it's not that deep. Kendrick Lamar is not trying to block Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo. He is just dropping an album. But that being said, I was so excited to see that SZA is on this album. We have some things to chat about Miss Solana in a little bit, which if you're a SZA fan, I'm sure you know where I'm alluding to that, but this is a major key in what we're going to chat about in just a little bit regarding to SZA. So I thought it would be perfect to, plant that seed now to keep you guys keep you intrigued so you know what's to come for the episode. And then, like I said, we did have the Wicked movie soundtrack. Not much to say about it. I mean, you guys know, it's Cynthia Grande, oh my god, it's Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande. It's going to be fantastic. And Jonathan Bailey, like everybody in the movie was so fantastic. We knew this soundtrack was going to be great. So nothing to talk about really for the soundtrack itself, but talking about the movie and kind of transitioning into our second segment. So our rapid fire pop culture moments from the week, the moments that were just too pop to handle, kicking things off with the Wicked movie. So Wicked movie is out. Like I said, you guys got my review. I'm not going to sit here and talk about how great it is because I could do another whole episode if I really wanted to about how fantastic this movie was, but the numbers don't lie. And Wicked is the #1 movie in the world. We love to see it. It is a win for the theater kids. It is a win for the gays. I'm so happy. I could not be happier. I didn't expect it to not be the #1 movie in the world, but there's always that hesitation, there's always that like, but what if it doesn't perform as well as you think it's going to be? Like, there's always that like slight bit until you really have the stats of knowing, and it is out officially. It is the #1 movie in the world. And that means that Ariana Grande is now one of 4 women who have had a #1 song, album, and movie in the same year in the US this century. She is joining J-Lo, Beyonce, and Taylor Swift. My only gripe with this stat is like, on paper, yes, Taylor Swift did have a #1 movie, song, and album in 2023, but her movie wasn't a movie. Like, that's what Harry Styles was talking about. Like, when a movie feels like a movie, we're talking about Wicked, we're talking about The Wedding Planner, we're talking about Dreamgirls. The Eras Tour movie wasn't a movie. She was performing on stage and they recorded it. She didn't learn a role. She didn't learn lines. There wasn't a script. Like, she was doing her job and they recorded it. That being said, we are not here to tear down women. Congratulations to Ariana. When I was reading this, I was like, oh my God, how cool. And then I was like, wait, Taylor had a #1 movie. And then I was like, are we really counting it? But there's, we have other things to talk about Taylor related in a little bit, so we'll get to that. But congratulations to Ariana Grande. Very exciting there. Wicked now also holds the record for the biggest global opening at the box office for a Broadway adaptation. So it opened domestically with $114 million, followed by Into the Woods in 2014 with $31.1 million. So that is a giant jump. I'm not going to do that quick math, but that's a big jump to go from 114 million down to 31 million. Like, this movie is performing. Also on the list, number 3 was Mamma Mia 2008 with 27.8 million, followed by Hairspray 2007 with 27.5 million, and then Les Mis with 2012 with 27.3 million. So Wicked is obviously, it's been so anticipated for so long that it was no surprise that it was going to perform this well. But looking at those numbers, like, that is crazy for it to go 27, 27, 27, 31, and then $114 million. Like, the bar is set so high, and we love to see it. There is not a single bad thing to say about the Wicked movie. And now, of course, Wicked was not the only movie that came out this weekend. We also had Gladiator 2, and people were kind of painting this new Barbenheimer moment. They were calling it Glicked. It didn't really catch on the way Barbenheimer did. But I thought it'd be fun to look at the numbers of both, Barbenheimer and Glicked and see, what really had the bigger pull. Gladiator 2 ended up pulling in $221 million globally, so $55.5 million domestically and $165.5 million overseas, whereas Wicked pulled in $114 million domestically, $50.1 million overseas, totaling in $164.2 million globally. So it's interesting to see how Gladiator pulled $55.5 million here, and Wicked pulled $114 million. But overseas, Gladiator 2 pulled what Wicked pulled globally just overseas, which I was honestly very surprised to see. I didn't think that Gladiator was going to have a bigger number, overall than Wicked, but I guess the people, they love Pedro Pascal and they love Paul Mescal. So kudos to them. Again, not my cup of tea, but I love to see hot men winning. So good for you guys. But as I was saying, people were obviously comparing this weekend to Barbenheimer weekend. So I pulled up the numbers for what Barbie and Oppenheimer did, and I was so shocked. So domestically opening weekend, Barbie pulled $162 million and Oppenheimer pulled $82.4 million. So Barbie domestically pulled what Gladiator pulled overseas, which is pretty much on the same level as what Wicked pulled overall. And globally, Barbie opened with $337 million as a whole, which is that's an insane amount of money to begin with. But when you look at the scale of the Wicked and the Barbie marketing, they're very comparable. Barbie was everywhere last summer. Wicked is everywhere right now. So to see these numbers compared and that's almost double what Wicked pulled, overall this past weekend, which obviously Wicked is still, it's not discrediting the movie, but it is interesting to see that Barbie ended up pulling double what Wicked pulled overall opening weekend. Oppenheimer ended up pulling $175 million. So even Oppenheimer actually ended up pulling $10 million more than Wicked did in its first weekend. Again, I'm not here to, go tit for tat with the movies, but with everybody comparing Glicked, and I even hate saying that, with everybody comparing Glicked and Barbenheimer, I thought it would be fun to, look at the numbers and see, but Barbenheimer does reign supreme. So that is, that's what's going on with Wicked this past weekend. If you have not seen it yet, please make sure you see this movie in theaters. It's obviously going to be fantastic at home because it's just a great movie, but seeing this movie in theaters is a must. That's all I'm going to say about Wicked. Yeah, you have to see it in theaters. It is phenomenal. Can't say enough good things about it. But that being said, we're going to keep the ball rolling. Going to hop on our broomstick and fly over to our next topic, which is SZA. I already mentioned this a little bit earlier at the top of the show, but SZA was on Kai Cenat's stream over the weekend. He is one of the biggest Twitch streamers ever. He's the one who Nicki Minaj went on for Pink Friday 2 and did that whole viral moment. SZA and Lizzo were actually on the stream this weekend, but SZA has announced that she has a full project ready to be released before the end of the year. And now, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, I have no problem calling SZA out on her shit and calling her a liar because she just loves to lie. It's what she thrives on doing. We've seen it time and time again. And you know what? I accept it. It is what it is. I don't really care anymore. I'm just gonna, when the music comes out, I am here for it and I will digest it. But I do think this time she might not be lying because there's some things that are just kind of pointing to why it would actually be coming out. So she's been teasing Lana, this project. We don't know if it's an SOS Deluxe. We don't know if it's a new project. It appears to be a new album, which obviously SZA could sing the phone book and release it and I would be seated for it. So regardless of what she's releasing, you know, whether it's a full project or a deluxe, I am sad. I cannot wait for it. But there are a lot of things pointing to it actually finally coming to fruition by the end of the year. So there are only 5 Fridays left in the year. But knowing SZA, I don't know if she would even care about what day of the week she release it on. She might just drop it on like a Tuesday and like say, fuck it, go for it. But that being said, SOS was announced 5 days before it was released. So she announced it on like December 2nd and it came out December 7th, whatever the dates were. It was literally like beginning of the week. She announced it. By Friday, it was out. So it wouldn't be the craziest thing if she did announce it on a Monday and then dropped it by Friday or, you know, sometime in that time frame. So it's definitely, you know, it is feasible. She also, like I said, was on Kendrick's album. So her hopping on those and kind of like building up that hype and, you know, that excitement for new music from her, I think that's kind of like a telltale that like maybe she is actually buckling up and getting ready to release this project. And then she also did a British Vogue interview a few weeks ago where she was talking about how she, you know, this new album she has and this new project she's working on is the lightest she has ever felt in her music. And it seems like she's kind of gotten through this healing period that she's been going through for a little bit and is kind of ready to turn over a new leaf and start this new chapter within her music. So I do think she's getting to a point where she is ready to release it. And I do think saying it on a live stream where there was probably millions of people watching, I do think that was intentional. And I am kind of like gearing up now for an end of the year release from SZA, whether it is, you know, on a random Wednesday in December or it's on a Friday. Obviously, we're not getting a traditional rollout from her, which I'm not surprised. She never really does anything traditional because she kind of stays in her own lane and it just works for her. She's really cracked the code on being, you know, the type of famous that she wants to be. She just like releases when she wants, does what she wants, goes on tour, gets a few viral hits, gets a few #1 albums, and then like goes away and does her thing. But I am very intrigued to see how, if, and when we get this new album from her because she has been teasing it for a while and I'm ready. I cannot wait. We are ready for it, SZA. Drop it tonight, drop it tomorrow, drop it on Thanksgiving. I don't care. Drop it whenever you are ready, but do not make us wait until 2025 when you keep saying is by the end of the year. I'm going to leave it at that. Before we go into our next topic, I do want to just throw in really quick. I didn't want to make it a full story because there's not much more to say other than the fact that Miley Cyrus has confirmed that she will be releasing a visual album in 2025. The title of it is called Something Beautiful. She said that the visual component of this is driving the sound. So apparently is kind of inspired by Pink Floyd's The Wall. Apparently it's very experimental. She said more than Dead Pets, which I'm very curious to see how that rolls over. But nonetheless, we will be getting new music from Miley in 2025. I feel like now that 2024 is coming to an end, we can finally start like counting who is going to release in 2025 because everybody released this year. So it's like, who is left? And, you know, Miley, Gaga, Tate McRae. It is nice to know that we do have some pop stars who, you know, they held out the 2024 buffet of music that came out and they are going to release in 2025. So that is very exciting to look forward to. Again, not much more to say other than that. So I didn't want to go spend too much time on it. Moving right along into our next story. This is just something that makes me so happy to see. And it is the fact that Demure is officially Dictionary.com's word of the year. So earlier this week, Dictionary.com did announce that the word demure had a meteoric rise of usage in 2024. It was up 1,200% between the months of January and August, and the spike was obviously largely attributed to Jules, the TikToker who started the trend, very demure, very mindful, and that really was such a movement over the summer. You literally could not escape the word demure, and it was everywhere, but it wasn't one of those trends that like ran into the ground. It was like tired. I wasn't tired of it because I knew that the creator behind it was benefiting so well from it. And maybe it's because I followed Jules, that creator, for so long, but knowing that now she was able to like fund her transition, she's a trans creator, you know, knowing that now she is able to pay her rent. She always would post about, you know, she was kind of in between. She would jump job to job. She would struggle. She went through a lot. And like I said, I've been following her for a while on TikTok. So seeing her transition, not just within her, you know, gender expression, but also just like in her well-being. Now, you know, because she posted a TikTok and this word is now the word of the year from Dictionary.com, like just like a fun, full circle, like happy ending to a story. And it's just so cool. Like it is seeing something happen on the internet that then infiltrates real life and is people are using it offline. There are those trends that really just stay inside the phone. They're online, and people outside, they don't know it. But like brands, every celebrity, everybody was using the word demure, and it really just like took off like wildfire, more than we've really seen any trends this year take off like that. I mean, Kim Kardashian, RuPaul, J-Lo, everybody was using this word, and it's just so cool. They said that the final decision to choose demure was informed by a deep analysis of social media trends, news headlines, and words that transcended conversations online, seeping into everyday dialogue. So like I said, like it really was one of those trends that made it outside of the box of the phone and just like infiltrated real life conversations. And like I said, the creator Jules, who started the trend, was able to pay for her transition with the money that she made from going so viral, and she's gotten so many brand deals and opportunities. And as somebody who has kind of watched her journey online, and you know, like I said, she used to go through it. She had some difficult times. That's not my story to tell, but she was played with a little bit, and she had some people who, you know, were doing her wrong. So to see her coming out on top this year and really having her moment and just like thriving with the word of the year, kudos to you, girl. We love to see it. Moving right along into our next moment of the week that was just too pop to handle. This was actually kind of like breaking news. And stories like this are what makes it fun about recording on Tuesday nights and uploading by Wednesday. People say it's crazy that like I do such a quick turnaround, but when I get to report a story that literally broke a few hours ago, people who recorded a podcast this morning for the week, they didn't get to talk about this, but I do. So yeah, you know, we get some late nights. Tuesdays are a little rough. Wednesday mornings is definitely an extra cup of coffee, but I get to talk about the fact that Billboard named Taylor Swift their number 2 pop star of the 21st century before any other podcast, assumingly. But yes, that being said, Billboard has announced Taylor Swift as their number 2 pop star of the 21st century. I've been updating you guys on this list since they started it with their honorable mentions, and I do have some updates for you guys before we get to Taylor. So last time we spoke, we were at number 8. So I'm just going to recap the top 10 for you guys and bring everybody up to speed. So number 10 was Adele. Number 9 was Ariana Grande. Number 8 was Justin Bieber, which actually, did you guys see Hailey Bieber, making some comments online about Justin being number 8? I definitely thought it was bold of her to make this comment and say that Billboard was like full of shit for putting him at number 8. I think he fits very perfectly at number 8. Like, I think seeing him there, maybe he could have been swapped number 7 with Kanye, but like, I think being in the top 10 of this list at all is a huge accomplishment. And I was surprised to see that Hailey, she stepped up and she was like, nope, I want my husband to be higher, which, obviously she's going to think he deserves higher. But that being said, I was just like, wow, you don't usually see Hailey speaking up against the media. She kind of stays in her own lane. She had her whole drama, she goes through it here and there, but like, she doesn't really like retaliate on things. And for her to comment on that, I was like, she has a strong opinion. But moving into the ones that we haven't talked about yet, number 7, Kanye West. I'm not even going to talk about it. Let's keep the ball rolling. Number 6 is Britney Spears. She obviously, if she wasn't in the top 10, I thought she would have been top 5, but top 10 at least. I mean, obviously, Britney Spears, she's fucking Britney Spears. If she wasn't in the top 10 of this list, it would be over. So many of the people on this list have credited their career and their success and so much of their inspiration to Britney. She was such a driving force in the early 2000s. I don't need to tell you guys why Britney Spears is one of the best pop stars of all time, but very happy to see her getting her flowers here. Number 5 on the list was Lady Gaga. No brainer. I mean, I'll never forget where I was when I saw the Poker Face video for the first time and watching Bad Romance for the first time, Telephone for the first time. Like, she was such a pivotal moment of the early 2000s, or I guess early 2010s, late 2000, like 2009 era, whatever you want to, what do you call that? What do you call the end of the 2000s, but the early 2010s? Like, what is 2009 considered? Regardless, Lady Gaga, no fucking shit. Number 4, we had Drake. Sure. I mean, I don't know. I always am like, when I think pop stars, I don't think men. I think that's my own personal issue. Like, I want to see females rocking the top 10, but Drake has obviously, he's done his big ones. He's obviously made such a huge impact in rap. And I mean, he's one of I think he has the most Billboard top 100 entries. It was the Glee cast for a while, but I'm pretty sure Drake has taken that title. So he clearly, bias aside, he definitely deserves a spot on this list. Number 4 might be a little high, but you know what? At least he wasn't in the top 3, because the top 3, these ladies deserve these spots. So number 3, Rihanna. No fucking shit. I mean, look back at anything Rihanna's done in her career. She has been just like moving the needle, thinking outside the box, she's been like 4 years ahead of everybody in her music. Like, she is just incredible. I talked about this a few weeks ago where like I am content in the fact that like maybe we never get a Rihanna album again, but like listening to Auntie back and like any of her projects, just like Loud, Talk That Talk, like any of her past albums, she's just such like a strong discography that I'm like, she really has given us hits for years that are timeless bops that we can listen to for years to come. And I'm content with that. You know, she is doing her thing. She is like living her best life, being a mom, being a billionaire with Fenty. Like, keep doing your thing, Rihanna. We are content. We are good. You absolutely are the number 3 pop star of the 21st century. And now number 1 and number 2, it was always unspoken that it would be between Beyonce and Taylor Swift. They really are the meccas of pop music, I feel like, in today's society. Like, they are the only ones at the same level as each other. Not to say that they're competition for each other, because I don't see them as competition, and there's not shade to either of them. I think they appeal to 2 very different fan bases, and, you know, Beyonce has been multi-generational, where now we're seeing Taylor, you know, span over all of these generations, but Beyonce has been releasing music since the 90s with Destiny's Child and has continued this longevity pre-streaming, you know, into the music video era, into the radio era, into CDs, into, like I said, streaming. Like, she has really been in every single era, has somehow come out on top and continued to prove why she is deserving of the number 1 spot. But that being said, Taylor Swift did get the number 2 spot, and the way people are reacting online is blasphemy. It is. You would think that Billboard released an article saying Taylor Swift has never released a good song in her life. Number 2 is a fantastic spot on this list, and it really could have gone either way. But obviously, I mean, I'm a huge Taylor fan. I'm a much bigger Beyonce fan. I obviously wanted Beyonce to have number 1, and assuming, you know, I don't know, the gag of it all would be like when they put somebody else at number 1 and it's not Beyonce at all. Like, that would be the gag of the fucking century. But I mean, come on, we know it's going to be Beyonce. That being said, the way people are reacting over this news, you would have thought Billboard literally was like, Taylor Swift is the worst artist. She's not talented. Like, expose on Taylor Swift. They are writing full think pieces about this Billboard list as if their life depends on it. And to that, I say, please go touch grass. Please get a job. Please go log off of Twitter and like just go do something. Yes, it is fun to read these things and, you know, keep up with it. And I host a weekly show about pop culture. I get it. I live for this shit. But these people are literally letting it ruin their day to the point where I'm a little concerned about it. And if you are one of those people and you are listening, I'm sorry if this offends you, but that is not normal. Okay? It is like, I don't know how else to say it. It is not normal to let these things affect your everyday life the way that some people let these like stan situations do. And I'm going to leave it at that because it can get me into some trouble if I keep going and say, you know, some deeper things. But that being said, congratulations to Miss Taylor Swift. I don't know when they're going to announce Beyonce as number 1, but when they do, we will celebrate on the podcast accordingly, because you guys know I will take any opportunity to celebrate Queen Bee. And the final moment from the week that was just too pop to handle is this Glen Powell lookalike competition that happened in Austin over the weekend. So I feel like he has officially won the title for the most iconic prize for one of these lookalike competitions. So over the weekend in Austin, there was a lookalike competition, as there's been for so many of these celebrities. I think it's like the funniest thing going on right now online. It's just like these random lookalike competitions that really stemmed from the Timothée Chalamet one that happened here in New York. And so on the judging panel for this lookalike competition was no other than Cindy Powell, Glen Powell's mom, helping pick who looked most like her son. And the prizes for this competition, let's get into it. So it was a $5 cash prize, a cowboy hat, a free year of queso from Torchy's, and on top of that, the winner of the lookalike competition now has the opportunity to let any one of their family members make a cameo in Glen Powell's next movie, which is just like that's such a fun prize to win. And I saw a lot of people online wondering why the family members would be part of the movie and not the winner of the competition. And if you didn't know, a fun little Easter egg that Glen Powell does in all of his movies, his parents make a cameo in the background of every single movie he's in. So it only makes sense that the winner of the Glen Powell lookalike competition has his parents also make a cameo in Glen Powell's next movie. So he posted a video on X and he said, I know there's some cash prize and a hat at stake here, but I just wanted to say that the winner of today's contest gets a personal prize from me. Now, you may know that my parents make a cameo in every movie I make, but today the winner of the Glen Powell lookalike contest wins their parents or any family member of their choice in a cameo in my next movie, which he then shared is a $6 billion cash value prize. And it's just like a fun thing to say, like, oh, my son won the Glen Powell lookalike competition and now I get to be a cameo in Glen Powell's movie. So it's just so fun. And I think Glen Powell is really, him and his PR team are doing such a good job at like painting him as like this, like, not boy next door, because he's obviously Glen Powell and like he's, you know, has this superstar factor to him, but they're doing a really good job at making him so likable and just like making him seem like he is, you know, everybody's best friend kind of thing. And I'm watching this Glen Powell press junket kind of thing that they're doing with him and just kind of making him everybody's favorite actor, and it's kind of winning. You know, it's kind of, you know, I'm seeing the chess pieces that they're moving and they're playing very smart. So good for you. Congratulations to the parents and or family member of the Glen Powell lookalike winner. It ended up being it was a physician's assistant named Maxwell Braunstein who won the competition. So hope you enjoy your $5. Hope you look good in a cowboy hat. Enjoy your queso, and I can't wait to watch your parents or family member as a cameo in Glen Powell's next movie. Just such like a fun, I love when there's a story that's just like lighthearted and fun and just like silly, you know. It's like, what a fun little tidbit in pop culture that we get to chat about on this podcast. So moving on to our main points of the show, I say it all the time, but you guys know concerts are like my favorite thing to talk about. And we had some big things going on in the concert world this year. So first things first, Taylor Swift is obviously getting ready to end the Eras Tour. Next weekend is the final weekend in Vancouver. So she is coming up on the final weekend of the Eras Tour. They did just release tickets behind the stage, like completely behind the stage where there's no view. There've been like limited view seats here and there that got released for most of the shows, but for the first time ever, they released completely no view behind the stage seats for $15. And I have personally paid more for a cocktail in New York City than these people are paying to listen to Taylor Swift sing live behind the stage. So no view or not, those people won at life. Like, I am so jealous. I'm also curious why they didn't do this for every show. I know there are so many people, all the people in the parking lot, they happily would have paid $15 to go sit behind the stage and just like be inside, you know? So I'm very curious if anything's gonna happen at closing weekend. If you guys think anything is going to happen for closing weekend, comment down below, tweet me. If you're listening on Spotify, you can leave a comment, like, let me know, because I'm not clowning for a release, but I do think she's going to do something closing weekend. So I'm very curious. Again, we have 2 weekends until then, so we will get there when we get there. But moving on to our next end of an era, if you will, Adele has officially ended her Vegas residency. So after 100 shows, 50 weekends with Adele, the residency has come to an end. And I feel like it has been such a cornerstone in pop culture over the last few years. So to see it finally end, very similar to the Eras Tour, it's like, wow, it's like this thing that there were so many headlines that came out from Adele's residency, and like seeing her just, you know, thrive doing this in Vegas. And, you know, she's been so open about not liking to tour, and she wants to have like a sense of home more so than when she is on tour. So Vegas really was like the perfect opportunity for her to still perform but have that feeling of home still. So it's finally come to an end, and she shared some emotional little tidbits both on stage and online. So during her final show, she said, "It's been wonderful. I will miss it terribly, and I will miss you terribly. I don't know when I will want to perform again, and I'm not doing anything else. I'm actually shitting myself about what I'm going to do. I don't have any fucking plans." So clearly, like, she is also feeling this like end of an era for her, because she's like, well, fuck, what's next? Like, she did say she's not done touring or done performing, or, you know, she's gonna still do music. But similar to like SZA, like I was saying, she's kind of cracked this code of like releasing when she wants and when she's ready. Kind of also similar to Lorde, who we're waiting for an album from. Like, these people don't follow the traditional path of like album, tour every year or every 2 years. Like they really take their time with their projects. And when they do perform, it's such a privilege to see them or hear them perform. Like they really, it's more of like a artistic approach, I feel like, rather than just like a money machine that just is like pumping things out to continuously make revenue or to, you know, make the biggest headline. Like it's impressive to see that Adele is able to really like handcraft her career the way that she wants to. She ended up posting on Instagram, you know, to really round out the weekend and pour some salt in the wound for the fans. She said, "What an adventure. Las Vegas, you've been so good to me. This residency went on to mirror what 30 was about. Lost and broken to healed and thriving. Seems so fitting in the end. The only thing left to do in this case is move on. These 100 shows have been so easy to love. They were all completely different because I got to really be with every single person in the room every night. I've loved every single second of it, and I am so proud of it. I will miss it terribly, and I will miss you all terribly too. Thank you, thank you, thank you. See you next time." So clearly, like, she is feeling the emotion. She knows how the end of this is kind of an open-ended question of like what's next for Adele. And like she said, like she was so broken when recording 30. She was so broken when she started this residency. If you remember, the residency had to get pushed for like months. I want to say there was like a 6-month delay originally because the stage just wasn't where she wanted it yet. And like I said, she really does craft everything she does. She wants everything to be as great as it can, as perfect as it can, because she knows like she's not one of those artists who tours every single year. You know, we don't see Adele as often as we see some of these other artists. So her, you know, pushing off the residency and, you know, delaying it for so long and then finally doing it and then getting sick and pushing off more shows. But like, there were so many big moments from this residency. I mean, like, the opening weekend when the video of her falling through the stage with the flower petals went viral, I'll never forget like seeing the videos of the orchestra like up in the stage. Like they really put so much time and effort and thought into this residency, and you can really tell that like Adele had a lot to do with the creative side of it. So this really is like such a, you know, the end of an era, and I love to see that like she's coming out of it engaged or married, ? I always forget if they're just engaged or if they have gotten married. She gets to now spend more time with her son, I'm sure. Like it's just like a beautiful way to end this chapter for Adele and move on to whatever is next for her in her career. She also did release a vinyl box set that included a 3 LPs, so 3 discs of the live set list, a photo booth, and confetti from the show. And I was like, that's actually such a cool collectible thing to have for any Adele fan and or record collector. But I clicked the link and it was $350, and I was like, oh, we are paying for the hiatus that Adele is about to go on. So yeah, I didn't add that one to cart, but I see what you're doing there, Adele. And you know what? I respect the hustle. Good for you, but not being added to my cart. Sorry. Moving on to the big concert news from the week. We officially have the 2025 Coachella lineup, and honestly, I'm into it. I think it's a really, really, really good lineup. I definitely think there were some things they could have done better. I think there are some, you know, some choices they could have made that would have made it a little more acceptable, if that's the word. I don't know, but we're going to go through all 3 days. I just picked out the ones that stood out to me as far as like what artists are performing, and then we're going to go into each artist, the headliners, and kind of chit chat there. So Friday night, we have Lady Gaga as the headliner, which we'll get into. Then we have Missy Elliott, Benson Boone, The Marias, Lisa, FKA Twigs, Glorilla, Marina, Tyla, 3 6 Mafia, and A.G. Cook. On Saturday, the headliner is Green Day, followed by Charlie XCX, The Misfits, Anita, Claro, T-Pain, Japanese Breakfast Club, Jimmy Eat World, and The Dare. And then Sunday, we have Post Malone as the headliner, Megan Thee Stallion, Zedd, Jenny, Shabuzi, Jesse Murph, Arca, and Ty Dolla $ign. So they've got some big names, and those are just the ones that I plucked. There were so many other artists on the list that I wasn't familiar with, or just like wasn't someone who I thought anybody listening would really resonate with. And I don't listen to all these artists by all means, but I just pulled the ones that I thought people would, you know, want to hear about. But like I said, we're going to chat about the headliner. So kicking it off with Lady Gaga. I mean, if you've listened to the podcast for the last hour, you know I am a gay man. You know that anything Lady Gaga does, I am going to eat it up. It is served to me on a silver platter. And the fact that we are getting a Lady Gaga Coachella headlining performance is so major to me. Now, you might be thinking, didn't she headline Coachella a few years ago? And you are correct. But it's different. And she did say this in her Instagram post, which we'll read in a second. But that being said, yes, Lady Gaga did headline Coachella in 2017, but this is different. So in 2017, she was actually filling in for Beyonce. So Beyonce was pregnant. She was announced as the headliner. And then like a month or two after the lineup came out, Lady Gaga ended up being announced that she'd be replacing Beyonce for that year. And Beyonce had a secured spot for 2018. So obviously Gaga, she did headline Coachella before, like on paper, yes. But part of the excitement of a Coachella announcement is having your name on that lineup and being like the original headliner announced. Like, it's not often that they're replacing the headliner. So for this to happen, I mean, obviously, if you're replacing Beyonce, you have big shoes to fill. And I think Gaga is a perfect person to step in and fill that role. But it wasn't like it was Gaga's show from the start. She was in between the Joanne album. She had just released it in 2016. She was gearing up to go on the Joanne tour. So it was kind of like an awkward time where like she released Joanne in 2016. She performed at the Super Bowl in February 2017. She did Coachella in April. And then the Joanne tour didn't start until August. So like she fully had, what is that, like 6 months between Coachella and the Joanne World Tour starting. And like Joanne isn't the album that you want to headline Coachella with. You know what I mean? I love Joanne. I know there's like, mixed opinions on it online with like people. I thought it was a great album. I went to the tour twice. I had a blast at the tour. But like when it comes to Lady Gaga, Joanne is not the album that you want to headline Coachella with. So I understand why she is so excited about the fact that like now she gets to headline Coachella with this new album she has coming out next year. Obviously, we already have Disease. The album is set for a February release, which gives us like 2 months, a month and a half, give or take, between the album and Coachella to come out. So I'm very excited to see what she has in store for that time between. Also, just like thinking back to the Chromatica release, like she was gearing up to release and have such a big rollout for this album, and then the pandemic happened. And like I think about all the time what she would have done differently for the Chromatica rollout had the pandemic not happened. So now that she's getting this official rollout with this big pop album, and like, yes, Chromatica was her comeback to pop, but like with the pandemic, you know what I mean? So the fact that she's getting this full rollout, she's going to do Coachella with this album, like it's a big deal. Not to mention she was also filming A Star Is Born while she was doing Coachella, and literally in between the Coachella weekend, they filmed part of the scenes from A Star Is Born at Coachella. They had like fans sign out to be extras, and that's when she performs I'll Always Remember Us This Way. That was filmed on the Coachella grounds. So like in between her weekends of doing Lady Gaga Coachella, she was like flipping the script, turning her alley hat on, and recording A Star Is Born at Coachella. So there was just like a lot going on. So I feel like this time is like full send just about this album. And you could just tell from her Instagram caption how excited she is. She posted the lineup and she said, "I have long dreamed of throwing a massive night of chaos in the desert. I've had a vision I've never been able to fully realize at Coachella for reasons beyond our control, but I wanted to come through for music fans. I have been wanting to go back and do it right, and I am. I'm headlining and starting the weekend off at Coachella. Can't wait to hear you all singing along and dance, dance, dance till we drop." So I am so excited to see what she has up her sleeve. Anything Gaga does, I am going to eat off of a silver platter, like I said, but I really feel like she's going to really give it to us with this performance and just like kick off this LG7 era of performances with a fucking bang. I cannot wait for this performance. Next up, we have Green Day. So this is actually Green Day's first time performing at Coachella ever, which I was really shocked to hear. Because when you think back, Coachella really started with more of like a rock feel to it. It's evolved over time as things do. And, they have more pop and rap and R&B and K-pop. And, they definitely add a mix to the lineup now. But when like the first 3 headliners at Coachella were Beck, Tool, and Rage Against the Machine. Like very rock heavy. They've had like Red Hot Chili Peppers. They've had so many true rock bands perform and headline Coachella. So when Green Day got announced, I was like, oh, surely they've done it before, whether it's headlining or just at Coachella in general. And they have never performed at Coachella before. So this is a big deal. And as a shock to nobody, I'm not the biggest Green Day fan. I don't listen to them often, if ever, but they're Green Day. There's no denying the impact that they've had on music. And like, I honestly am very excited to see what they do with their Coachella performance. They're always so politically forward, and especially, just a few months after the inauguration, I'm sure they're going to have a lot to say about, the shit show that is going on politically. And yeah, I mean, again, I'm not the target audience for a Green Day Coachella headlining show, but very good friend of the pod, Jocelyn, is the exact target audience. So for that, I am so happy for her and the rest of the Green Day fans who get this headlining Coachella performance. I'm sure it's going to be great. And that being said, our final headliner of Coachella 2025 is Post Malone. So he did perform back in 2018. He was like a second line artist. So, not quite a headliner, but just about there. It was the same year that Beyonce headlined Coachella. So to be completely fair, I feel like everybody who performed at Coachella in 2018 kind of got the shitty end of the stick, because how can you compare to what Beyonce did on that stage? So Post Malone is coming back for his headlining moment. He actually, funny enough, it's like the most Post Malone thing he could have done. He accidentally leaked that he is headlining Coachella when he did his tour announcement. He posted all of his tour dates with the first two being in Indio, California. And then like his team and management who posted it had a version without those dates. But like on his official Post Malone account, they literally had the two Coachella dates. So he kind of leaked it early. And I'm kind of wondering if that's why we did get the lineup a little bit earlier than we usually would. But nonetheless, I think this is a great lineup this year. Would I have liked to see more females as the headliner? Yes. But that is not, that is Coachella's problem. That is not the artist's problem. I think we have a good lineup this year. I mean, Gaga, Green Day, Post Malone, there's really something for everybody. But then when you get into those like second, third, fourth line artists, there really is something for everybody. So obviously the biggest name on the list for me is Charli XCX. I mean, returning for a second year in a row, so exciting. I really thought she was going to headline this year, but again, that's a Coachella problem. I wasn't there when they made the lineup. It is what it is. But it is very full circle to think that like this year when she did Coachella, that's when she started teasing the Sweat Tour. If you remember, her Billboard said Charli and Troy. And that was like our first teaser into that Sweat Tour or something with Charli and Troy was coming. So such a full circle moment. She's also going on a Brat Arena tour in 2025 after Coachella. I did secure tickets to one of the 4 Barclays shows. I'll probably end up at another one, probably the Saturday show if I had my choice, but we will see. I did get tickets, so no need to travel to Denver to see Charli this time around. I'm so excited for that, but I'm also so excited to see what she does for this Coachella performance. And again, just such a full circle moment. Charli has had such a killer year, and it seems like it's not slowing down at all. So very excited to see what is in store for 2025 for all of us brats out there. Next up, Megan Thee Stallion. She performed in 2022, but to have her come back and just like, she has had such a career growth since 2022. Even then, she was huge and on top of her game, but she has really gone through so much since then and really so much music, and has really just like come more into who she is as an artist. So very excited to see what she has in store for this new performance she's going to do this year. And then another first timer at Coachella who, much like Green Day, has been in the game for so long and has had such an impact on music that I'm shocked that this is the first time they are performing at Coachella. Missy Elliott, this is her first time ever performing at Coachella, and I cannot wait to see what type of gaggery she pulls out for this set. It is going to be insane. The amount of guests that she can bring out, the amount of like the choreo, everything is going to be a insane performance. I am so excited to see what Missy Elliott brings to the fucking desert. We also have Shaboozey, who I literally in my notes I just wrote Shaboozey, yay. I'm just so happy for him. I don't listen to him often, but when I have listened to him and what I do listen to, I do enjoy it, which is a shock because I don't usually like country music, especially when it's a man singing. But something about Shaboozey, he has it. You know what I mean? He has that it factor. He has had such a killer year. And so I'm so excited to see that he's getting his flowers and recognition, and he will be at Coachella next year. Very excited to see, what he brings to the Coachella stage. And then the final 2 artists that we're going to chat about from the Coachella lineup are Jennie and Lisa. Both of them are members of Blackpink, but they are making their solo Coachella debut. And I'm very excited to see what they bring to the desert. Blackpink's Coachella performance was fucking insane. It was such a good performance. So I'm sure Jennie and Lisa are still going to perform to that caliber. So I'm very excited to see what they have in store there. And that wraps up our Coachella conversation. Like I said, I think the lineup is very good. I do wish there were more females, not just in the lineup, but headlining. Lady Gaga's headlining, but I would have loved two out of the 3 headliners to be female. But we see this issue with the music industry over and over and over and time again, where they just don't include female artists, or they're all on the second line or whatever. It is what it is. Unfortunately, Again, I wasn't there when they made the lineup. In my perfect world, it would have been Gaga, Charlie, Megan Thee Stallion headlining. Boom, boom, boom. Girls, girls, girls. But again, I'm not Coachella, so it is what it is. And moving right along into our second to last segment of the show, we have a TV recap, and we are talking about Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. This last episode, this whole breakfast at Tiffany moment they had at Mary's house was so insane and so chaotic, and I loved every second of it. But before we get to breakfast at Mary's, we see Lisa and Heather meet up, and they go out, they grab drinks together, and they're just kind of catching up. Obviously, Heather wasn't on the trip with the girls. She wasn't invited, which we'll get into in a minute, but Lisa is filling her in on what happened, and we're seeing Lisa kind of bend the truth on what was going on, and both in the instance of what Bronwyn told her about Heather not being there and the situation with Todd and John. She's pretty much telling Heather that Todd told John that Bronwyn and Lisa have to make up right away and smooth it over, or they have to go, when what Todd said was, you guys need to stop screaming at each other. And if you can't stop screaming at each other, you guys have to go, which he wasn't asking you guys to be kumbaya best friends and make up and, all good. He was just saying, stop screaming, stop ruining my vacation, or you guys have to go. So, again, kind of like playing the victim card. I mean, it's Lisa Barlow. I have such a soft spot for her. I do love the bitch, but I do kind of see through some of the, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh my God, Team Lisa, she's right. Because you can admit when your fave is wrong. You know what I mean? In this instance, Lisa is wrong on both accounts. So that's all I have about their little shindig at the bar. But the real meat and potatoes of this episode was Mary's breakfast at Tiffany's moment, which Meredith showing up with those clip-in bangs, I was fucking screaming. It was so funny. I mean, obviously Bronwyn, whatever, they had their bangs, but Meredith's were so fucking funny. I was dying. It was so funny. So first and foremost, Mary inviting Brittany only to prove to her that she is not poor is such icon behavior. Like, one thing about Mary Cosby is she is going to get the last laugh and she is going to prove a point, and her inviting her to this is so it's so funny. I'm obsessed. I love it. Mary she's been coming around to me more this season. I never disliked her, but I had my moments where I was just like, I think I needed to, unsubscribe from the Mary Cosby network for a bit, all the church things and whatever, and she was in and she was out, whatever. But this season, she's coming around, and I'm loving what Mary is delivering this season. And on the topic of Brittany, she is fighting for her damn life for that snowflake next season. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a bitch more committed to getting cast on the next season of a Housewife franchise as I have seen with Brittany. The way that she's just like screaming at this girl that she's feeling left out. She's making everything about her. And this is not shade at all. Like, this is not, I've chatted with Brittany a bunch. We actually follow each other on Instagram, and like, she is so sweet, very nice. Like, I have nothing against her, but I do think her like housewife campaign is running strong, and she is going to do anything it takes to secure a snowflake for next season. And honestly, you do what you got to do. And when you come on as a friend of and you want that casted spot, you are going to make the drama. You have to make the drama so the producers buy into what you're selling and cast you next season. However, I don't blame Bronwyn for leaving her out of the trip after the way she went so sideways at Bronwyn and Todd's marriage in the Harley-Davidson Museum. Like, I don't think Brittany had grounds to stand on of being upset about not being invited to Bronwyn's trip after the thing that she said about her marriage. So I don't think like that was a valid argument. And though she did apologize to Bronwyn, I feel like she only apologized to Bronwyn to be included in the next trip. So I'm not sure if her apology was fully genuine or not, but that being said, they made up. It was kumbaya. We saw a lot of makeups. We saw Bronwyn and Heather makeup. They had their tit for tat, went back and forth, and then they finally were like, you know what? Let's start fresh. Let's be good to go. But the two bitches who are not going to start fresh and who will not, let bygones be bygones, Angie K and Meredith. These two girls will not let up on the drama between Meredith, Angie, and Sean. They are going to ride this truck until it runs out of gas. We see Angie bring up the whole thing with Sean and the podcast, and Meredith gets defensive, and they're just like screaming at each other, and Mary gets involved, and it could have been handled a lot better. And I don't think Meredith needed to like storm out the way that she did, but she has said over and over that like when she starts to feel attacked, she's out. Like, she bows out, she's done. So she's staying true to what she always has said about how she reacts to things. But I don't think it was warranted for her to like fully leave the situation, nor was it necessary for it to elevate the way that it did. I think they could have handled it a lot more calmly, but I guess that's like what you're in store for when you sign up to be a housewife. Like, things get heated, things, really like hit the ground running and heat up quick, and then it's just like exploded in your face, and then you figure it out at the next brunch. Like, I don't think Angie and Meredith are never going to be friends again. I'm sure they're going to come around to be fine by next season, but I'm very curious to see where this road leads, because right now they are not in a good place. And that is really my Housewives recap. Like I said, I'm not recapping Roni anymore unless anything crazy happens. And last episode, nothing crazy happened. Nobody is surprised, but I am loving Salt Lake City still. It is such a good season. And I'm very, very, very curious to see what is in store for this latter half of this season. And that brings us to our final segment of the week. We end every single episode here at Too Pop to Handle with a yes and a mess. My yes being something I am loving and my mess being something I am not loving. We always start on a high note, so let's kick it off with my yes. And my yes this week is the Destiny's Child reunion that we had at Death Becomes Her on Broadway over the weekend. If you are unaware, Michelle Williams of Destiny's Child fame is currently starring in Death Becomes Her on Broadway, and Beyonce, Kelly, and Miss Tina showed up and showed out for their girl at, I believe it was opening night over the weekend. It was either opening night or still previews. Regardless, they showed up, they did their thing, and it is just so, I love to see the three of them reuniting in any capacity, and especially like seeing Beyonce and Kelly have their moment at the Kamala rally a few weeks ago, and Michelle not being able to be there because she was on Broadway. The fact that they went with Miss Tina, it's just such a, a full circle moment. They really have been on this ride together, the three of them, and the four of them, if you include Miss Tina. They've been on this ride together for their entire careers. So the fact that they all still show up for each other, they still support each other, I loved it. The reel that Beyonce posted with Two Most Wanted as the song, it's just like, oh, you guys know how I feel about Two Most Wanted. It just like plucks my heartstrings in all the right ways. And that reel, the pictures, I just love to see the fact that the three of them are still, they're still supporting each other. They're still being sisters. And it's no surprise. Destiny's Child was such a huge part of my childhood. So to see them, reconnect, it's just like, it gives us all those little warm and fuzzy feelings inside. So absolutely loved that. And then switching gears to my mess, something I am not loving is the fact that there were so many fans and paparazzi outside of Liam Payne's funeral. And it's one of those things where like, I shouldn't be so surprised because people are such pieces of shit and like have no boundaries. But why are we still allowing paparazzi and fans to wait outside of a funeral? Like, there's the fact that people have no boundaries, like people wait outside of people's weddings, funerals, like all of these things that are so personal. Of course, with a wedding, it's different because it's like a happy celebration, but regardless, it's such a personal and private moment for that person who, yes, they are a celebrity and they are a public figure, but that doesn't mean you have the right to show up to their wedding and absolutely have no right showing up to their funeral. I don't care. I don't know. Like, what did you expect? Did you expect Harry to come over and take a selfie with you? Did you think they were going to be like, oh, well, let's do a meet and greet on the side of the street while they're all in their black tuxes sobbing over their bandmate dying? Like, what was running through your head when you as a fan or you as a paparazzi showed up at this funeral? I know paparazzi are like spineless and they have no boundaries, but it's like there needs to be some type of law put into effect where like it's got to be stopped, because logging onto Twitter last week and seeing people posting high quality paparazzi photos of One Direction and Simon Cowell reuniting outside of this funeral when they are full on sobbing in hysterics outside of this funeral. Why is that allowed? Like, what is it going to take? Was Princess Diana dying not enough? Like, what paparazzi moment is going to seal the deal and finally make these laws like actually get put into effect and like actually do something about it? Because like, that was insane. Again, I wish I wasn't so shocked by it, but like, it's just like humanity never fails to surprise me with like the levels that they will steep to, like how low and just like embarrassing. It is so embarrassing to stand outside of somebody's funeral to get a picture of Harry Styles or Louis Tomlinson. Like, it's just like, what goes through your brain before you go and decide to stand outside of one of these events? I need to know, because like I need a psych evaluation done on every single person who is standing outside of that event taking photos, because something is not right. Something is not clicking upstairs. Lights are on, nobody is home. And that being said, we have made it to the end of my episode. Thank you guys so much for listening to this week's episode of Too Pop to Handle. If you liked what you heard and you're listening to us as a podcast, make sure you leave us a 5-star rating. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you hit subscribe and give us a like. If you would like to follow me on social media, I am at Too Pop to Handle on all platforms. You can also follow my personal at Andrew Nucatola. Everything will be linked down below. Like I said at the top of the show, make sure you subscribe to my Substack so you don't miss any of the, the in-between goodies and the writings of the pop culture world that I give you guys between each episode. This is a really good week to subscribe. Like I said, I have really fun content getting pushed out this week, so make sure you're subscribed. It will be linked down below. I say it every week, but if everybody listening to this episode sends it to one friend, say it with me, I will double in listeners. It is simple math. And with that, I will catch you guys next week. Have a happy Thanksgiving. Oh my God, have a very happy Thanksgiving. Remember my rules from the top of the show for Blackout Wednesday. Have a happy Thanksgiving, and I will catch you guys next week. Bye.